My name is Alex Vance, and at 32, I was on the cusp of launching MentorMind, my revolutionary AI algorithm designed for personalized learning. For 5 years, every spare moment, every late night, had been poured into this project. It was more than just code. It was my dream to democratize education, a vision born from my own struggles in a rigid public school system. A system where I, a bright but unconventional learner, often felt like an ill-fitting cog in a massive, unyielding machine. I remembered countless hours spent bored in classes, my mind wandering, only to come alive in the quiet sanctuary of the library, devouring books on subjects far beyond the curriculum. That frustration, that yearning for a path tailored to my curiosities and strengths, was the genesis of MentorMind. My fiancée Sarah, a compassionate and perceptive fourth-grade teacher, was my anchor through it all. She saw the human impact of my work, constantly pulling me back from the abstract world of algorithms to the tangible faces of the students who would benefit. "It's not just about efficiency, Alex," she'd often remind me, her hand gently tracing patterns on my back during one of my late-night coding sessions. "It's about igniting a spark, making a child feel seen." She'd bring home anecdotes from her classroom, a student struggling with fractions but excelling in creative writing, another who grasped complex science concepts intuitively but found traditional math drills agonizing. These stories fueled MentorMind's development, solidifying its core philosophy: education should adapt to the child, not the other way around. She wasn't just my emotional support, she was my living, breathing proof of concept. She'd volunteered her classroom for early testing, meticulously noting student reactions, subtle shifts in engagement, and breakthroughs that traditional methods missed. Her insights were invaluable, shaping MentorMind into a truly empathetic tool. Despite the immense pressure, the self-doubt that often gnawed at me in the quiet hours, I believed in transparency. I believed in sharing the journey with those I trusted, the small circle of friends and colleagues who had witnessed MentorMind's evolution from a scribbled idea on a napkin to a robust, scalable platform. But thank God I listened to my gut feeling about truly securing my intellectual property, because just 2 weeks before our scheduled launch, the man I considered my mentor nearly stole everything. That foresight, that inconvenient paranoia I'd once dismissed, saved my professional future in ways I never imagined. It was a premonition, a quiet whisper in the back of my mind that perhaps not everyone's intentions were as pure as their public persona suggested. Before I tell you how my mentor, David Thorne, tried to take everything, drop a comment. I'm interested in knowing where you're from. Please hit like and subscribe if you've ever had to protect what rightfully belongs to you. David Thorne was a titan in education tech, a visionary whose company, Innovator, had once inspired my own path. His public speeches were legendary, filled with inspiring rhetoric about educational equity and technological advancement. I'd idolized him in my early 20s, poring over his interviews, convinced he was a kindred spirit. So when he reached out a year prior, expressing admiration for a small, open-source project I'd released, I was ecstatic. He'd taken me under his wing, offering advice that seemed prescient, resources that were otherwise out of my reach, and seemingly unwavering support. He'd occasionally drop by my modest office or invite me to Innovated's gleaming corporate headquarters, always asking probing questions about MentorMind's architecture, its unique algorithms, its scalability. I saw him as a father figure, someone who understood the intricate dance of innovation and entrepreneurship and genuinely cared about my success. He even offered to host our pre-launch demo at Innovated's prestigious annual summit, an invitation that felt like the ultimate validation, a golden opportunity I couldn't refuse. The summit was the event of the year in EdTech, attracting investors, educators, and major media. This was our moment. The week leading up to the summit was a blur of frantic final checks, sleepless nights fueled by coffee and adrenaline, and excited discussions with Sarah about our future. We were going to change the world. The morning of the summit, the air crackled with anticipation. My heart pounded with a mix of nerves and exhilaration as I ran through my presentation one last time, refining every slide, rehearsing every transition.
My lead developer, Mark, a brilliant but quiet coder who had been with me since MentorMind was just a prototype, gave me a thumbs up from his desk. "You've got this, Alex," he mumbled, his face illuminated by the glow of his monitor.
Just an hour before I was scheduled to take the stage, David called me into his lavish corner office at Innovated's headquarters. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, a stark contrast to the sudden chill that seized my heart.
"Alex," he began, his usual warm smile a little too tight, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. "There's been a slight change. A rather strategic pivot, if you will." He paused, letting the words hang. "We've decided to integrate MentorMind directly into InnovateEd's platform. It's a synergistic move, benefits everyone involved. Think of the reach, Alex. Millions of students overnight."
My mind reeled. Integrate? Without my consent? Without a single conversation? What are you talking about? I managed, my voice thin, a sudden tremor in my hands. The polished mahogany desk, usually a symbol of professional success, now felt like a barrier. He pushed a sleek, bound document across it. It was a revised partnership agreement, but not just revised. It was a hostile takeover. I scanned the pages, my eyes darting over clauses that stripped away everything I'd built. It granted innovated majority ownership, diluted my equity to a paltry percentage that felt like an insult, and relegated me to a mere employee, a cog in their machine. My name was still on the project, a footnote, but the soul of MentorMind, my dream, would be theirs. The vision I'd poured my life into, the genuine desire to make education accessible, would be twisted, commercialized, and, ultimately, co-opted for their profit.
"It's for the best, Alex," he said, leaning back, an unsettling glint in his eye, a hint of predatory satisfaction. "You're brilliant, truly, but perhaps a touch naive about how this industry truly operates. This is how the big leagues play. We make difficult decisions for the greater good of the company. Sign it now, and we can still make this work. Or, we'll simply launch it ourselves as Apex Learn. We have all the necessary files, after all."
The implication hung heavy in the air, thick with unspoken threats. He had my code. He'd been privy to every line, every iteration, every late-night commit thanks to the shared development environment he'd insisted upon. My stomach churned, a cold wave of nausea washing over me. This was it. This was the moment that gut feeling, that nagging voice telling me to go the extra mile on IP protection, screamed its validation. I had quietly, meticulously encrypted key components of MentorMind and registered multiple layers of intellectual property, including a specific unannounced feature I'd internally dubbed the Adaptive Resonance Module, under a shell company weeks ago, a move I'd dismissed as overly paranoid at the time. A last-minute decision made after David had seemed too eager for a complete final build, even suggesting I upload it to a shared server for ease of integration with InnovateEd's existing infrastructure. Something about his insistence had pricked at me. "You can't," I stated, my voice gaining strength despite the tremor in my hands. I gripped the edge of the desk, knuckles white. "You don't have the full algorithm, and even if you did, you wouldn't have the legal rights." "My IP is locked down, David, every single line that matters." David chuckled, a dry, dismissive sound that scraped against my raw nerves. "Alex, please, we've had access to your development server for months. Every commit, every file. You're out of options. Don't make this harder than it has to be." He gestured towards the document with a pen. Panic flared, hot and suffocating, then a cold, quiet resolve settled over me. Sarah's face flashed in my mind, her unwavering belief in me, her tireless work with her students. I wouldn't let her down. I wouldn't let them down. "You'll regret this, David," I said, standing up, my voice steady now, devoid of the earlier tremor. He merely waved a dismissive hand, turning back to his computer, already composing the victory speech he planned to deliver. The summit began without me presenting. My slot was silently erased from the agenda. Instead, David took the stage, bathed in the glow of the spotlights, beaming with an unctuous self-satisfaction that turned my stomach. "Innovated is proud to announce our latest breakthrough," he declared, his voice resonating through the grand auditorium. "A revolutionary AI called Apex Learn." My blood ran cold. He was doing it. He showed slick, professionally produced slides, even a polished demo video that showcased functionalities identical to MentorMind's core features. It was MentorMind, rebranded, slightly tweaked with InnovateEd's corporate colors, but undeniably, horrifically, mine. The audience gasped with excitement, murmuring praises. He was getting away with it. The applause that followed was a physical blow, each clap a fresh sting. For the next few days I was a ghost. Wandering through my apartment, the bitter taste of defeat coating everything. The scent of stale coffee, the silence of the empty rooms, the mocking gleam of my own untouched laptop, it all served as a painful reminder of my shattered dream. Sarah, ever the bedrock, remained strong. She held me, listened patiently as I railed against David, against my own foolish trust, against the crushing unfairness of it all. She didn't offer platitudes, she offered presence. She cooked my favorite meals, insisted I go for walks even when all I wanted to do was wallow.
"We fight, Alex," she said, her eyes unwavering, her grip firm on my hand. "You built this. It's yours. This is not the end of MentorMind. This is just the beginning of its true story."
Her words were a balm, reminding me that the battle wasn't lost, just redefined. We brought in a sharp, no-nonsense intellectual property lawyer, Miss Evelyn Chen, known for her tenacity and her razor-sharp mind. She was intimidatingly competent, her office a minimalist shrine to legal victories. When I explained my foresight with the layered IP protection, her usually impassive expression softened slightly, and her eyes widened with a flicker of genuine surprise.
"You encrypted a core component and registered it separately under a holding company and held back a unique feature? That's not paranoia, Mr. Vance. That's ingenious. Most innovators don't take these precautions until after they've been burned."
David had indeed accessed the development server, pulling what he thought was the complete codebase. But my final, critical commits, including the encryption key for the adaptive resonance module, the truly groundbreaking feature that allowed MentorMind to intuit and adapt to a student's learning style at an unprecedented level, were pushed to a private, off-grid repository just days before the summit. It was a last-minute, paranoid precaution I'd taken after that particularly unsettling conversation with David where he'd pressed too hard for early access to the final build. He had almost everything, but not the keystone, not the heart of MentorMind. Without the adaptive resonance module, Apex Learn was merely a sophisticated personalized learning tool. With it, MentorMind was a revolutionary paradigm shift. Miss Chen moved with surgical precision. She sent a cease and desist letter to Innovate Ed, a polite but firm declaration of war, followed swiftly by an injunction order from the court, demanding they halt all promotion and distribution of Apex Learn. David, confident in his stolen code and the might of Innovate Ed's legal team, initially dismissed it as a mere nuisance, a desperate last gasp from a disgruntled former protege.
He's just bitter. We offered him a fair deal and he refused.
But then came the public revelation orchestrated masterfully by Miss Chen. With her guidance, I strategically leaked the unique identifiers of my encrypted core module and detailed explanations of the unannounced adaptive resonance feature to Elena Vargas, a prominent tech journalist known for her investigative prowess and her disdain for corporate malfeasance. Crucially, I provided her with the time-stamped IP registrations, the undeniable proof of my ownership, and the existence of these distinct, groundbreaking components. Elena, a veteran of countless tech scoops, was immediately intrigued. She cross-referenced my documentation with publicly available information about Apex Learn. The proof was undeniable. David's Apex Learn was conspicuously missing critical functionalities that I had patented, and it had blatant architectural similarities to my early builds, but not my completed one. It was a Frankenstein monster missing its brain. The article hit like a meteor. Apex Learn, innovation or imitation? Questions arise over Innovate Ed's new AI. The headline screamed. The tech community erupted. Forums buzzed with accusations and outrage. Innovate Ed's stock plummeted faster than a faulty drone. Investors, already wary of the market, demanded immediate answers. David, cornered and exposed, tried desperately to backtrack, issuing vague press releases claiming misunderstanding and parallel development, a pathetic attempt to salvage his reputation. But the evidence, thanks to my quiet diligence, was overwhelming. My gut feeling wasn't paranoia. It was intuition, a silent guardian against the very betrayal I now faced. The world was watching, and for once justice seemed to be on the side of the little guy. The lawsuit was brutal but surprisingly short. Innovated, facing a catastrophic PR nightmare, a rapidly eroding market value and a clear IP violation that Miss Chen had meticulously laid bare, settled quickly. They paid a substantial sum for damages enough to fund MentorMind's independent launch and secure its future for years, and, most importantly, David Thorne was publicly disgraced and forced to resign from Innovate, his name now synonymous with corporate deceit. MentorMind, now fully mine again, free from the shadow of predatory ambition, soared. The intense publicity from the scandal, ironically, had given us more attention than any marketing budget ever could. People were drawn to the story of the young innovator who fought back against a corporate giant, a tale of integrity prevailing over avarice. The comeback wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. Sarah and I married in a quiet ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family, her unwavering support a constant reminder of what truly mattered, a love forged in the fires of adversity. MentorMind launched, and its impact was immediate and profound. Schools adopted it, students thrived, and the testimonials poured in. Teachers reported renewed enthusiasm from previously disengaged students. Parents spoke of their children's newfound love for learning. We were changing lives, one personalized lesson at a time. Then came the twist, months after the dust had settled and MentorMind was flourishing. I was in my office late one evening reviewing new user data when an anonymous email landed in my inbox. The subject line was simply truth. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a moment, a prickle of unease. I opened it. It contained a single grainy screenshot from a security camera feed. The timestamp was late at night, a week before the summit, exactly when I had uploaded the final encrypted module to my private repository and when David was supposedly pulling the final build from the shared server. It showed David Thorne, not in his lavish office, but in the server room at Innovated, a place I rarely saw him, plugging a USB drive into the main development server. But behind him, partially obscured by a server rack, was a figure I recognized immediately, a cold dread creeping into my bones. It was Mark, my former lead developer, the quiet, brilliant coder who had been with me since MentorMind was a nascent idea. He was looking over David's shoulder, a faint, knowing smirk on his face, a gesture of silent complicity. His hand was raised slightly, as if guiding David, or perhaps simply confirming the deed. My mentor hadn't just tried to steal my dream, he'd had an accomplice, someone inside my own team, helping him from the shadows, feeding him information, perhaps even guiding him to the incomplete version of the code he believed was final. The betrayal was deeper than I ever imagined. Mark, who I had mentored myself, who had been privy to my fears and my triumphs, had sold me out. The gut feeling, it seemed, wasn't just about IP, it was a warning about the wolves in sheep's clothing, about the insidious nature of ambition and greed that could corrupt even those closest to you. It was a hard lesson, a bitter pill to swallow, but it cemented a new, deeper resolve. Trust would be earned, not given, and the fight for integrity was never truly over. MentorMind was more than an algorithm. It was a testament to resilience, a beacon built on the ashes of betrayal, guided by the quiet wisdom of a gut feeling that saved everything. And now, armed with this new, painful knowledge, I knew the journey was far from complete. There were still shadows lurking, and I would be ready for them. Have you ever had to protect something that was rightfully yours from someone who felt entitled to it? How did you handle the situation? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more about navigating tricky family dynamics and building professional independence. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't the money or property itself, but the wisdom to protect and use it wisely.
Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we've got a story that, honestly, it feels ripped, straight from, well, maybe a tech thriller. It's about innovation, trust, betrayal.
Definitely betrayal.
Yeah. It centers on this personalized learning AI, a real passion project, and how it was almost snatched away from its creator. So we're going to trace that journey, look at the complexities of, protecting your vision, intellectual property, and maybe that little voice inside your gut feeling.
And we have a fantastic guide for this. The Mentor's Betrayal, My Stolen Dream. It's a personal account by Alex Vance himself. What's so useful here is how it serves as really a practical lesson in managing risk.
Right.
It shows safeguarding something valuable isn't usually one big dramatic move. It's more about a whole series of careful, sometimes small, defensive choices you make when the pressure's really on.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Alex Vance. He's 32, and he's poured, what, 5 years
Yeah.
into MentorMind? This wasn't just code. It was his answer to, well, his own struggles.
Exactly. His motivation came directly from feeling like a square peg in a round hole in the public school system. Bright kid, but learned differently. So he felt misplaced, frustrated. And that frustration fueled this whole idea, an educational path that actually adapts to you, to your curiosity, your strengths. That was MentorMind's core.
And it wasn't just his vision, right? His fiancée, Sarah, played a huge role.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Sarah was a 4th grade teacher, very compassionate, and she really grounded the project. While Alex was deep in the algorithms and the tech, Sarah kept bringing it back to the students, reminding him it was about, as she put it, igniting a spark. Not just efficiency.
That makes sense.
And she did more than just talk. She volunteered her actual classroom for early testing, watched the kids, took meticulous notes on how they reacted, where they lit up, where they struggled. Insights you just don't get from data logs alone.
Yeah, that's invaluable feedback.
Totally. It's pretty rare to see that kind of direct, empathetic, non-technical input shaping an AI, especially back then. It baked empathy right into MentorMind's design. How often does that happen, really, where personal experience shapes the tech so directly?
It's a great point. So Alex has this amazing grounded project, and then he meets David Thorne.
Ah, yes. David Thorne, the titan in education tech, CEO of Innovate Ed. Alex basically idolized the guy.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Thorne's public image was all about, educational equity, using tech for good.
Right.
Very inspiring stuff.
Right, and Thorne spots an open source project Alex did, likes it, and takes Alex under his wing, offers advice, resources, seemed totally supportive.
Must have felt incredible for Alex. Invitations to the big corporate HQ. Thorne asking really detailed questions about MentorMind's architecture.
It felt like validation, like, wow, this is really happening.
And the peak of this apparent mentorship, Thorne offers Alex this huge opportunity.
Golden opportunity, yeah. Host MentorMind's pre-launch demo at Innovate's big annual summit. I mean, for a startup, that's the dream stage.
Huge visibility.
Exactly. It looks perfect. But looking back, you can see it was the setup, the perfect setup for what came next.
Okay, so the summit arrives. Alex is ready for his big moment. And then, boom. An hour before he's supposed to go on stage, Thorne summons him to his office, drops the bomb, a strategic pivot.
Which meant
Thorne planned to basically absorb MentorMind directly into Innovate's own platform. No discussion, no real partnership. He just slides this revised partnership agreement across the desk.
oh boy.
And it wasn't a partnership. It was a hostile takeover, plain and simple. Innovator gets majority ownership. Alex's equity gets slashed to almost nothing, and he becomes just an employee.
Yeah.
Working on his own creation for someone else.
Wow. Just gutting to see your dream twisted like that.
It's brutal, and Thorne didn't mince words. He laid out the threat immediately.
What did he say?
Essentially, sign this right now, or, and this is the kicker, we'll just launch it ourselves anyway, call it Apex Learn. We have all the necessary files after all.
He thought he had everything. He assumed he did. Because Alex had been using a shared development environment Thorne provided, Thorne was completely confident, utterly brazen about it, just assuming he held all the cards. Classic corporate strong-arming.
Okay, but this is where the story flips, right? Because Alex hadn't given him everything.
Exactly. This is where Alex's inconvenient paranoia, as he called it, saved him, that nagging gut feeling.
I'll hit you down.
Weeks before the summit, quietly, he'd taken some serious precautions. He encrypted the most critical components of MentorMind. And not just that, he registered multiple layers of intellectual property.
Layers?
Yeah, including a very specific, totally unannounced feature, the adaptive resonance module. And crucially, he registered all this IP under a shell company.
A shell company, so an extra layer of legal separation and secrecy.
Precisely. A non-operating entity just to hold the IP. And this wasn't some long-planned thing. It was a last-minute decision, prompted specifically because Thorne had been just a bit too eager, too insistent, that Alex upload the complete final build onto that shared server. It just didn't sit right with Alex.
Wow. Trust your gut indeed.
And that adaptive resonance module, that wasn't just some minor add-on. That was the game changer, the real innovation.
What did it do?
It allowed MentorMind to intuit and adapt to a student's learning style in a way nobody else could. It was incredibly sophisticated. Without it, Thorne's Apex Learn would be, decent, sophisticated even. But with it, MentorMind was revolutionary, a completely different level.
So Thorne thought he had the whole cake, but Alex had kept the most important slice hidden.
You got it. That unannounced protected IP layer, that was the key. It shows how sometimes that one extra step, that thing that feels maybe a bit paranoid, it can be the firewall between losing everything and having a fighting chance.
So back to the summit.
Yeah.
Alex reeling from this meeting. Thorne goes on stage. Bold as brass, takes the stage, launches Apex Learn. Slick presentation, demo video, looked exactly like MentorMind's core stuff. But missing that crucial adaptive resonance piece. The part Thorne didn't even know existed, let alone have access to. Still, for Alex watching, utter devastation.
Right, yeah.
It felt like defeat. I can only imagine just watching someone else present your work.
Crushing. But then Sarah stepped in again. His rock.
What did she say?
Simple, direct. We fight, Alex. You built this. It's yours. That resolve, that clarity, it was exactly what he needed.
So they decided to fight back.
They did. And they made a smart move. They hired Mrs. Evelyn Chen, described as this incredibly sharp, no-nonsense IP lawyer.
Okay.
And interestingly, Chen wasn't just focused on the legal battle. She was genuinely impressed by what Alex had done proactively. She recognized that his layered IP protection, the shell company, the encrypted module, that was rare. Smart.
So she knew she had something solid to work with.
Absolutely. She saw the brilliance in his preparation.
So what was Chen's first move?
Surgical precision. First, a cease and desist letter fired off to Innovate, basically, stop using our stuff now. Polite but firm, the opening shot.
Standard legal step, right?
Standard, but necessary. And followed very quickly by applying for an injunction order from the court. That's the legal hammer. A court order telling Innovated they must halt all promotion, all distribution of Apex Learn immediately pending further review.
That must have hit Innovated hard.
Definitely put the brakes on their launch plans. But then came the real masterstroke, guided by Chen.
What was that?
Alex, very strategically, leaked key information to a specific journalist, Elena Vargas, known for her deep tech investigation.
Leaked what exactly?
The unique identifiers of his encrypted core module, proving he had a specific protected piece of code. And detailed explanations of the adaptive resonance feature revealing the real innovation Thorne didn't have.
And the proof.
Crucially, time-stamped IP registration documents, undeniable proof that he owned this specific technology, including the secret sauce, well before Thorne ever announced Apex Learn.
Wow, using transparency as a weapon.
Exactly. Combining the leak with hard evidence, it completely changed the narrative. Vargas ran the story, Apex Learn, innovation or imitation. Big ouch. The impact was immediate. Innovated stock tanked. Thorne's reputation, carefully cultivated for years, shattered overnight.
So the public pressure worked.
Massively. Innovated folded fast. Faced with a PR disaster and clear IP infringement evidence, they settled quickly.
What did the settlement involve?
Substantial damages paid to Alex. Enough money, actually, to properly fund MentorMind's independent launch and give it runway for years.
And Thorne.
Publicly disgraced, forced to resign from Innovated, a complete fall from grace.
And MentorMind.
It launched independently and soared. Ironically, the huge publicity from the scandal actually amplified its success. Teachers, students, schools, they loved it. It started making a real difference, a total turnaround.
An incredible victory after coming so close to losing it all.
It really is. But the story doesn't quite end there. There's a twist. What happened? Months later, everything's going great with MentorMind. Alex gets this anonymous email, just one attachment.
What was it?
A grainy screenshot. Looked like it was from a security camera feed inside Innovate.
And it showed.
It showed David Thorne, clear as day, in the Innovated server room around the time of the summit, plugging a USB drive into a terminal.
Okay. Maybe trying to plant something or retrieve something.
But that wasn't the shocking part. Standing behind Thorne, slightly in the shadows, but definitely recognizable, was Mark, Alex's lead developer.
His lead developer, the one who'd been with him since the beginning.
The very same. And the screenshot caught this faint, knowing smirk on Mark's face, and a gesture. Like silent complicity. Agreement.
No way. An inside job.
It completely reframes everything, doesn't it? It wasn't just Thorne, the external predator. It was betrayal from within his own trusted circle. Someone he relied on, worked side by side with, helped Thorne try to steal it.
That's so much worse somehow.
It really is. It adds this whole other layer. It shifts it from just corporate espionage to something deeply personal about trust, ambition, and the hidden dangers within your team. Makes you wonder who you can really count on.
So when we wrap this all up, what's the big takeaway from Alex Vance's story?
I mean, it's a wild ride, isn't it? From the dream, the mentor, the near theft, the fight back, the win, and then that final painful discovery.
Yeah, it really covers a lot of ground. But it hammers home that point about intuition, right? And just being meticulous.
Absolutely. That inconvenient paranoia saved him. But also the concrete steps, the encryption, the layered IP, the shell company, it shows you need both. The gut feeling and the practical legal safeguards. Especially when trust can be tricky.
So the legal protections are vital, but they aren't the whole picture.
Not at all. Alex's story really underscores that, yes, get your legal ducks in a row. That's crucial. But your ultimate defense might actually be your own critical thinking, questioning things, not taking everything at face value, and listening to that quiet voice, that gut feeling, even if others might dismiss it as paranoia.
Right. It leaves you thinking, doesn't it?
It does. And maybe something for you, the listener, to chew on. In this world now, with so much information flying around, so many complex relationships, work dynamics, how do you actually tell a true ally from someone who isn't? And how do you stay vigilant enough to protect what you create, your ideas, your work, without letting that vigilance erode your own integrity or your ability to trust anyone? It's a tough balance.
A very tough balance. A lot to think about there. Thanks for walking us through that.
Fascinating case study. Glad we could dive into it.